barbarians from the gate.
I got into the labor movement not because I wanted to negotiate wages. I got into the labor movement because I saw it as a vehicle to do massive social change to improve the lots of people.
Let's take these son of a out and give America back to America where we belong. Thank you very much. Thank you.
As far as I'm concerned, the Tea Party can go straight to hell.
Hour number 2 begins right now. Brian Summerfield, Trucker Randy, your defending fathers.
Brian, we start off this segment with a caller joining us via the Skype line. Want to introduce to the audience a person who actually is from New Zealand. His name is Trevor Loudon, and he was an actor. He had comments in the movie that we've talked about and used numerous times on this show called Agenda, Grinding America Down. He also has recently written a book called The Enemies Within. And one of the subtitles I kind of teased the audience with earlier in the segment, it's not only the enemies within, but it's the communists, socialists, and progressives in the U.S. Congress. We want to welcome Trevor to the show. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, very good. I want to thank you very much for coming on our show this morning. We want to get a long interview with you this morning and take this kind of segment by segment. I want to break it down so the audience understands exactly why you're in America and what you're doing. Your background, why don't you just give a brief bio of your background and your political involvement there in New Zealand?
Yeah, look, I've been a political researcher and blogger for many years. I was actively involved in New Zealand politics as the vice president of a political party there. And I've also, my blog, New Zealand, is focused on American politics over the last few years. And a lot of my information has been used by people like Glenn Beck, etc. I exposed the communist green jobs for Zara Van Jones, for instance, which resulted in him later having to leave the White House.
One of the things that you have focused on, and you mentioned it very, eloquently in that movie, Agenda, Grinding America Down, was your knowledge and the research that you have regarding the communist and socialist parties, not only in Europe, but also here in the United States. Why don't you talk a little bit about that and how it's led to what you're currently doing?
Yeah, look, I've been a student of the political left more than 20 years. Back in the 1980s, I interviewed a New Zealander who had infiltrated our local Communist Party and had trained in Moscow at Lenin's Institute over there. Now, that was a huge political school, 6,500 students. And what they were taught there was basically how to take Moscow's policies back to their home country and turn them into the policies of their own government. So, was really taught how that the Marxist parties, while I was studying the...
I was afraid this might happen. He's traveling today down in Tennessee, and I know for a fact the cell phone service down there isn't that good. Hey.
This is a good spot for a break right here. We're talking.
Yeah, let's do that. We'll reconnect.
Yep, we're talking to Trevor Loudon. He is from New Zealand. Pontificates well on what is currently going on and what we're experiencing in the United States. We're going to be talking to him more when we come back. We are your defending fathers. Hey, welcome back to the program. Brian Summerfield, Trucker Randy, your defending fathers. Got a phone call on the line to start out this segment with. You are on.
Oh, I'm sorry, Trevor. You were breaking up a little bit when you were talking about that meeting where they were recruiting young people to go back to their countries to infiltrate the government. Why don't you start over at that point, and we'll keep going with the interview.
Yeah, look, what really educated me was talking to this communist who had actually trained in Moscow, and the big thing they were all taught was how to take Moscow's policies back to their own country, and by using the labor movement and the peace movement and even the churches they were able to make Moscow's policies into their own government's policy. And while I researched that process for many years, and that's a result of the book that I'm putting out now. But the communists, by using the labour movement, etc., can basically dictate the legislative process in your country.
One of the components going forward was Curtis Bowers made the movie that you were in called Agenda, Grinding America Down. And he attended a meeting at University of California, Berkeley back in 1995. Why don't you talk a little bit about their strategy that he spoke about there in the movie, whereas as opposed to a war trying to take America down at bullet point, at gunpoint, that they were going to try to do it from within. Why don't you explain a little bit to our listeners about that strategy?
Yeah, that was a meeting of the Committees of Correspondence, which was a breakaway from the Communist Party USA. And their strategy was then, as it is now, to basically act like red termites, to move into the environmental movement and the gay rights movement and the women's movement and the labor unions and the media to rot America out from the inside. Because ultimately bullets and guns will be employed if they have to, but they really want to soften America up first. So that's been a process that's been going on for a long time, and it's really accelerated in the last 10 or 15 years.
One of the things that you're currently doing, being here in the United States, and in the book that you've written, The Enemies Within, Communists, Socialists, and Progressives in the U.S. Congress. Why don't we talk a little bit about the research you've done in looking at the political parties here in the United States, both Republicans and Democrat, and share with our audience what your research has brought to you?
Well, it's mainly focused on the political left. And what's happened is in 1995, for a long time, your labor unions in the United States were controlled by anti-communists like Lane Kirkland and George Meany. But in 1995, the radicals, Democratic Socialists of America, and other Marxist groups took over the AFL-CIO, and they put their member, John Sweeney, in as president, and now their protege, Richard Trumka, is running it for them. Now, what that did, basically there's hardly a Democrat at any level, any elected Democrat at any level in your country who doesn't owe his job to the labor unions. So by taking over the labor unions, the communists were able to get a lot of control and influence in today's Democratic Party. That's why the old moderates like Joe Lieberman have all been purged from the Democratic Party. In the last 15 years, it's gone way, way, way to the left. That was because the communists took over the labor unions and used that to take over the Democratic Party.
So your research, in your opinion, is that these unions are actively involved in the Communist Socialist Party here in the United States?
Look, absolutely. They're controlled lock, stock, and barrel. The AFL-CIO, AFSCME, AFT, NEA, SEIU, all of them are Marxist-led now. Every single major union in the country.
We've passed recently in the state of Michigan, we became the 24th right-to-work state here. Don't know if you knew that or not, but we got a lot of pushback.
Very, very gratified to hear that.
Yeah,
that was great.
We got a lot of pushback in that we were bringing up the way they tie union donations directly into political parties, where they fund basically 99.99% of their political capital goes to the Democratic Party. So you're saying there's definitely a correlation between the Communist Party then and these Democrats that they donate to.
Look, absolutely, it's a loop. You know, the unions take union money, they give it to the Democrats, and the Democrats do what the unions tell them, and the unions are controlled by the communists. Now you've seen that in Detroit. I shouldn't have to. You know, you saw what happened in Detroit. In the 90s and the 80s, you had a city council run by Democratic Socialists of America. You had Marion Mahaffey and Ken Cockrell and Communist Party supporters like, I've just forgotten their name right now, but there were several, Jackie Vaughan, etc., who were running your Detroit City Council. Carl Levin was another one. Now, these people basically wrecked Detroit, and they were led by Coleman Young, your mayor at the time. Coleman Young was a card-carrying member of the Communist Party USA, while he was the Democrat mayor of Detroit. So you had a combination in that city of crony capitalism, unionism, and Marxism. And that is really the model for Obama's America. That evil alliance of crony capitalism, unions, and socialism is basically what it was tried out in Detroit. Is really the model for what Obama's doing to the whole country now.
Well, one thing that our governor here in Michigan has currently been forced to do, is put Detroit in bankruptcy. And you're saying that this was the basic model under which this president, Obama, wants to basically implement to what they did to Detroit under Coleman Young. Obama wants to do to the rest of the United States of America.
Yeah, well, Obama's real agenda is to bring America down, to make America a second or third rate power. And to do that, he has to destroy the economy and your military strength. And basically what he's done is, if he can bring down the economy, you will accept the gutting of your military. Now, people in America right now are so busy worrying about just staying alive and staying afloat that they're not really watching what Obama's doing to the military. And he is gutting it before your eyes. And that's very, very serious, because you can come back from a depression, but you can't come back very easily from the destruction of your military, because if it gets bad enough, your enemies, and I'm talking Russia and China and Iran, who are all allies, along with radical Islam, will try and eventually take you out.
We've talked about on this show how Obama has fired 9 generals within the Navy just within the last few months. That's gone basically untalked about. This is all part of his strategy of tearing the military apart.
It's a purge. Yeah, that's really what it is. Now, it was very interesting that there's a former leader of the Weather Underground terrorist organization called Mark Rudd, very close, associated with Obama's friends Bernardine Dawn and Bill Ayers, and also with Jeff Jones. All of these people worked very closely together to get Obama elected. Mark Rudd was a big supporter of Progressives for Obama, for instance. Now, he wrote a paper before the last election, or it might have been just a week after the 2008 election. And what he said was this. He said, Progressives shouldn't worry, because in the first couple of years, Obama will not touch the military, because they're way too powerful and Americans are way too patriotic and won't tolerate it. But, he said, you wait for 2 or 3 years into this recession. And the recession had hardly started at that point. He said, in 2 or 3 years, when this recession really begins to bite, then we can start to defund the military. I'm back on, guys.
Hey, hi there.
Very good, Trevor.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about this. It's just cutting out out.
That's okay. That's the hills of Tennessee. Yep. So just go ahead with your finished comments there. We got about 2.5 minutes before the break.
I'm not sure where it got up to, though. What did it finish on?
Well, the bottom line, what you were talking about, was at the point of the military and Obama breaking it down. He wasn't going to touch it his first couple of years, and they all said collectively, just watch what's going to happen, and you broke up right there.
Yeah, well basically, the left understood that Obama couldn't touch the military he had to wait till the economy was really bad and people were really suffering, and then people would tolerate it. And that's exactly the scenario he's played out. Obama's worked with pro-Soviet Marxists his entire life, from Frank Marshall Davis to Alice Palmer in Chicago. And their agenda was always to destroy your military. Now, he's doing that, and I think the most significant thing that your president said this entire first term of office, when he was caught off mic in South Korea talking to the Russian president, Dmitry Medvedev, said, when I get re-elected, I'll have more flexibility to deal with you. And Medvedev said, yes, I understand. I'll pass your message on to Vladimir. We are with you. That is really what the Obama agenda is all about.
Absolutely. Well, when we get back, we're going to have a 5-minute hard break here at the bottom of the hour. When we get back, I want to bring this home to Michigan and talk a little bit about your research and all of the information that you know about your book, The Enemies Within, Communists, Socialists, and Progressives in the U.S. Congress. I want to talk specifically about Michigan and your knowledge of our state, of our politicians,
yep,
and be able to, let the listeners know more about what you know about our country.
Absolutely.
So stick around. We will have that after the bottom of the hour break. More with Trevor Loudon, and a great conversation in the way that he sees it through eyes from New Zealand. Stick around. We are your Defending Fathers.
Now your Defending Fathers, Brian Summerfield and Randy Bishop.
Hey, thanks for being with us today. Fast-moving week. I know it's already Halloween. New month starts tomorrow. Oh, all kinds of trash talking going around the state of Michigan, with Michigan State coming up on Saturday. But we're talking adult issues today.
Hey, Trevor, we're going to keep doing this. If you keep dropping, no problem. I'll just add you back in on Skype.
Okay.
One of the topics in your book, The Enemies Within, Communists, Socialists, Progressives in the U.S. Congress, is a pretty provocative title. Why don't you tell the audience why you chose to use that title?
Well, obviously, to say something like that, you've got to be able to back it up. That's a 700-page book with more than 80 pages of footnotes, culled from 5 years of research in communist libraries all over your country. So the evidence is there. And what I'm basically saying is that when the communists took over the unions, they also took over the Democratic Party. And they've been able to get their people into your Congress on a regular basis. Now, in their own state, obviously you've got people like John Conyers, who's got a 50-year history with both the Communist Party USA and a 30-year history with Democratic Socialists of America, the two largest groups, your two largest Marxist groups. So this is endemic. I'd say there's at least 100 members of your House and at least 20 members of your Senate who couldn't pass a basic security clearance to clean the toilets at any military base in your country.
Unbelievable. Specifically in Michigan, you talk about and mention in your book there is other people in Michigan politics specifically. Why don't you elaborate a little bit on some of your research as to who is actually in these communist socialist parties of America?
Okay, well, how it works, because Michigan was always a very strong union state, the communists had it very easy in your state. They've dominated democratic politics for decades. First, the Communist Party USA controlled the United Auto Workers Union. Then it was the Socialist Party USA. Then it was Democratic Socialists of America, which was founded in 1982. And they've had the ear of many of your leading politicians, from Jennifer Granholm to Debbie Stabenow to obviously John Conyers, Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick, Hanson Clark. But right now, one of the ones I'm interested in is Gary Peters, because he's running for your U.S. Senate. Now, he has a little bit of a history with Democratic Socialists of America. His people have worked with them. Originally, he rebuffed their advances because he didn't want to be, red-baited. But his people have worked very closely with DSA to help support him in his electoral races. And he is following their agenda, and they'll be backing him in his race for the Senate.
Now, that's interesting because he is taking a shot at Carl Levin's seat, who is retiring, and he is the candidate, the Democrat party is putting up. But you're actually saying on this radio show here today that U.S. Congressman Gary Peters actually has some type of direct connection with the Socialist Party of America?
With the Democratic Socialists of America, which is your largest Marxist group. But they're extremely strong in your state. Most of your leading politicians do have connections with them. They set up the Justice Caucus in your state house, which has the allegiance of a whole bunch of your Democratic legislators, many of them who are elected with the help of Democratic Socialists of America. That organization operates very, very strongly inside your local Democratic Party. And Peters is connected to them, absolutely. He's connected to the Justice Caucus. He's connected to Democratic Socialists of America. He's worked with, they were very heavily involved in Occupy Detroit, for instance, which Peters also worked very closely with. So he is certainly one of the questions.
One of the things that you had mentioned, too, and this goes back to Detroit, Coleman Young being a member of the Communist Party, as well as Jennifer Granholm. You mentioned her name in your book. Tell us a little bit, if you're able to hear me, tell us a little bit about what you know about Jennifer Granholm and how that played all into the control of the Democrat House here in Michigan during our last decade.
Well, there was a woman in your state, very active for a long time, called Mildred Jeffrey. She was an official of the United Auto Workers Union. She was a very prominent Democrat. She basically helped. She was the one that got Geraldine Ferraro put on the Democratic ticket as a vice president in 1984, I believe, under Walter Mondale. She was a very influential Democrat, also a long-time Marxist member of Democratic Socialists of America. She mentored Jennifer Granholm. She helped get her into power. She also mentored Debbie Stabenow. She took Stabenow on trips to Russia, on trips to China, introduced her around, got her connected with all the socialists in your state, got socialist support for her election campaigns. So both Granholm and Stabenow largely owed their careers to a Marxist Mildred Jeffrey and her Democratic Socialists of America comrades.
One of the things that happened was this past election, Debbie Stabenow won re-election, beating our Republican candidate, Congressman Pete Hoekstra, by over 20 points. And a lot of people thought that, of course, she was unbeatable, and she proved it. So you're saying that she absolutely was able to win that re-election with the socialist backing of the Democrat Socialist Party of America.
Well, she's sort of got her own momentum now, but they helped start her career. There's no question of that. They got her in the first races. They helped her in all the early races. Now she's a popular senator, and she can pretty much do it on her own. But she has always followed their agenda and always worked very closely with them.
One of the things that we're looking at doing here in Michigan is trying to win that U.S. Senate seat with our Republican candidate announced so far is Terry Lynn Land, and she is running against Gary Peters. What would be the best strategy? What would be the best strategy, in your opinion, looking at this from the outside into Michigan and United States politics? Is this something that Terry Lynn Land, in your opinion, should get out there about Gary Peters and his connection to the DSA?
Well, look, I don't know how well it would play in your state because so many people, that they are conditioned to think, well, this is McCarthyism, it doesn't really matter anymore. I think she's really wise to tie Stabenow into the unions because people can see the damage that unions have done to your state. And the unions are effectively controlled by the Marxists now. So I would tie Peters right into the unions and highlight his union ties, his union backing, and the fact that he's basically doing their bidding. So it's really a matter of, does Michigan want to be ruled by individuals, enterprising people who get into business, or does Michigan get run by the unions who basically destroy Detroit and will destroy the whole state if they're given their chance? So that'll be the strategy I would pursue.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to have a couple minutes here to finish up with you. We greatly appreciate Trevor Loudon, who's calling in from Tennessee. He's written a book currently out, if people want to get it, The Enemies Within. These are absolutely unbelievable things you're talking about, but this is all well documented. Your book is almost 700 pages long.
Yeah, look, it's it's full of screenshots, it's full of photographs from communist publications. There's pictures there of John Conyers attending Democratic Socialists of America meetings in 2013. This year. This is not old stuff. This is happening in real time right now. There's pictures of Debbie Stabenow at Justice Caucus events. The Justice at the Millie Jeffrey Memorial Dinner. A dinner honouring one of the leading socialists in your state at a caucus set up by Democratic Socialists of America. So these people are running things now. They are basically still working to bring your state down right now. So, people can get the book on Amazon, they can get it through Kindle or Nook, or they can also go to our website, Pacific Freedom Foundation, and order it online. So that's Pacific as in the ocean, freedom as in what we all want, Foundation.
Excellent.
Repeat that one more time.
Pacific Freedom Foundation. Pacific as in the ocean, Freedom Foundation.
FreedomFoundation.com. We greatly appreciate it. One last question before we go. Bottom line, why are you doing this now? Why is there such a sense of urgency, in your opinion, going into the 2014 elections? Why is it so important for people to hear your message?
Look, this election, the next two elections are crucial. If the Democrats win again, you will have a socialist America. You'll be de-armed, and the bad guys of the planet will have no opposition. Every Western country will be affected. If America loses its liberty, so does the West. Now, one of the big aces in the hole is that the Democrats, if they get elected again, they will give amnesty to 12 million illegal immigrants. That gives them at least 8 million more Democratic Party votes. That will turn Texas blue, and if Texas goes blue, the Electoral College votes from Texas, combined with those from California, which the Democrats control now, will make it mathematically impossible for any Republican president to ever win another election. It'll be a Democratic Party, one-party state. And that'll be controlled by the socialists, and you'll be done for, basically. So this is so important that people get organized and rally to try and save their country over the next 3 years. Because as I say, if you go down, my country goes down too.
Basically affecting the entire dynamic politically across the entire world.
Absolutely. America is the leader of the free world. If you join the other side, where do we go then?
Absolutely. Well, we really appreciate you being on with us.
I think Reagan answered that question.
Trevor Loudon. And go ahead, Brian, wrap it up, and we'll go to break.
I think Reagan answered that question loud and clear. We are the last bastion of freedom left in the world. So
you are. There is nowhere to run if America goes down.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. Hey, Trevor, thanks so much. Appreciate it so much, your time today. You just nailed it, and we've used your stuff in the past. We're going to continue to use it. You're right on the money, and thanks for your great insight and your time today.
Look, thanks, guys. It's great being on. Sorry about the telephone connections, but hopefully next time it'll be easier.
It definitely will be. We'll be back.
We'll definitely have you back on a landline and look forward to talking. Again, thank you for everything you're doing and what you're doing to fight to try to save our country. We appreciate your efforts immensely.
Thanks, guys. My country does owe you a thing or two. You did sort of save us in World War II, So thanks
absolutely.
Stick around. Final segment of this hour. When we return, we are your defending fathers.
Seems like yesterday, but it was long ago.
Hey, welcome back to the program. Brian Summerfield, Trucker Randy.
Facebook comments blowing up all over the place, Brian.
Well, I've got 2 phone calls I need to get to, as well as Facebook comments. Let's start out with the phones, and then we'll get to Facebook. Hey, thanks for calling in. You're on with your Defending Fathers.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah. Hi. I'm calling in just to thank you for putting Trevor Loudon on the radio for people to hear. And if anybody has any curiosity, I'm looking at page 456 of a 5-page book with a picture of Debbie Stabenow at the event that Trevor talked about, and I'm looking at 25 footnotes discussing her situation. So the detail is in the book. I just want to point that out. The other quick comment is he did spend some time in Michigan. 800 people heard him in 5 events. He does talk about the problem. He scares the daylights out of you, but he does talk about his prescription. And I just wanted to mention that he talks about the Reagan Coalition,
yes,
where people came together, and his coalition that he's talking about can make a difference too. So at some point, you may want to shed light on what his perspective is on the kind of leadership we could have in the future if we can get past 2014. The kind of people he would put in control or that he would recommend. I'll just leave one point. His suggestion for Attorney General for the United States in 2016, if we won, would be Mark Levin.
God bless him.
Hey, great.
Yeah, he does give a solution. I was going to get into that because I have that website pulled up, the Cruz Coalition, Brian. We'll talk about that more as well. Take the next call.
Yeah, we got another phone call on the line. You're on with your Defending Fathers.
Hello.
You're on.
Go
well,
ahead.
it's still Dick. It's still Dick, so...
Okay.
Oh, didn't connect. Okay. Well, we'll talk about that solution, and we appreciate you giving us the extra insight. Got a lot of comments, too, about how to get the book and things like that, so we'll be getting into all of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, you are on now with your Defending Fathers.
Hello. How you guys doing?
Good.
Good.
Hey, I just wanted to tell you that was a very interesting segment you just had. I've been kind of looking into some of that, too. Those 9 officers that you keep referring to has been relieved of duty in the last year alone.
Yes.
But if you look through the time from Obama when he first got into office, he has relieved over 197 officers from our military. 197. That is alarming.
Yeah, and especially like you mentioned, those 9 specifically that Brian and I are talking about are generals or higher. Admirals, generals, I mean...
Major generals, exactly.
Unbelievable. Appreciate your phone call.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good point.
Absolutely.
Very, very good point.
Any other phone calls, Brian?
Nope, that's it. You can get on Facebook.
Well, the Facebook comments were all over the place. Amazing support for the interview, thanking us for doing it. Great interview. Had another comment, phenomenal. How do we get the book? People need to get it and research the documentation and then pass it on to the necessary candidates to expose these communist offenders, not just here in Michigan, but the federal government as well. We need to start the process of removing these people before they tear our country apart. Also, another comment came in, loved seeing him in the movie Agenda. He speaks the truth. He doesn't mince any words. This is what the American people need to hear. So appreciate those comments on Facebook as well.
Also, let's see, I had one other one here too, and let's see if I can find it real quick. But
I'm going to ask our IT department to edit out the commercials and the breaks, as well as when we drop his phone calls. Try to edit it and put it together, and we'll upload it on our Patriot Voice Radio YouTube channel and post that on Facebook and get that entire interview pieced together so that it flows, and hopefully people can share the link around and get that information out.
Yep, very, very good. Well, we still have another hour left, and my juices are flowing. We're going to have a very good discussion when we come back, along with hopefully have you put your thinking cap on too. I want to put together a list and check it twice and see if we can get some action on some things. Stick around. We are your Defending Fathers.
This is the Patriot Voice Radio Network.